Look, I have a hard time voting for any bill that gives Donald Trump the opportunity to fire another 25,000 veterans, gives Donald Trump and Elon Musk the opportunity to take away nursing home care from millions of our seniors, that gives Donald Trump and Elon Musk the opportunity to take away hot lunches for little kids.
That's Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts on Wednesday, speaking out against the Republicans' governmental funding measure. She's expected to vote the opposite of Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, who says he's going to vote to advance the bill, and he's going to vote to advance the bill, as he explains in the New York Times, because if there's a government shutdown, that actually gives Elon Musk and Donald Trump even more power to tear away at the federal government. That is, if there's a government shutdown. Schumer's announcement comes just one day after he declared Democrats were unified against the bill. But during a private luncheon yesterday, Schumer suggested there were enough votes to break the 60-vote filibuster threshold. With me now, Senator Tim Kaine of Virginia. He's a member of the Armed Services and Foreign Relations Committee. Senator, thank you so much for being with us. This is one of those no-win situations if you're Chuck Schumer. I mean, if he goes ahead and tries to corral everybody to shut down the government, you literally have just handed a get out of, whatever, political jail free card to Elon Musk and Donald Trump to shred even more parts of the federal government, because then they have absolute power, basically, while the government shut down. But you vote to keep it open, then he's going to get attacked by the base. Talk about what Democrats are having to balance today and what you're going to do.
Joe, I'll tell you first what I'm going to do, but you're right. It's a no-win situation. When I saw the House bill on Sunday, I said, hell no, because I just was not interested in voting for something that was going to enable these guys to fire more veterans and cut education and health programs, screw up air safety, tank the economy. Why would I do it? But my vote really crystallized Wednesday morning. I'm on the Armed Services Committee, as you mentioned. We had a hearing, and the Pentagon looked us in the face and said, this House CR will hurt national security. It will weaken our ability to maintain ships and subs. It's going to do damage to us. And then my Republican colleagues on the committee said, we agree with you. This is going to hurt national security, but it's better than a shutdown. But Joe, this was Wednesday morning. In the Senate, we still had 3 days left to make it better. But the House adjourned Tuesday night and skipped town. They aren't even around. And so my Senate Republican colleagues are walking around saying, this is bad, but we can't fix it. And I decided then, when the Republicans are trashing this, but acting like they have to go along, I'm not going along. You're right. Chuck Schumer has a very, very difficult call. The way I ended up is I went back to my days in living in Honduras when it was a military dictatorship. And I learned something very important then. A bully can take something from you, but you shouldn't hand it over to him. So I'm voting no. It does appear that there are enough Democratic votes to move it ahead. We're going to continue to see Donald Trump wreak havoc with Elon Musk on the economy, on the federal workforce, on close alliances like our alliance with Canada. But there are more battles ahead, and we'll fight them together.
So, Senator, what would you say to Chuck Schumer and other Democrats who would suggest that your vote only hands Donald Trump and Elon Musk even more power?
Well, I weighed that. I mean, look, that's an argument you have to weigh. I ended up concluding the opposite because, again, we're winning cases in court right now against things that Trump is doing. But if we vote for this bill and sort of say, OK, we're going to put our imprimatur on some of this, I even worry it might make it harder for us to prevail in court on some of these battles. But I do acknowledge what Chuck said, and I think he acknowledged it too. Neither of these are good options. They're both really, really challenging. And we want to keep the focus on Donald Trump's mishandling of the economy and cruelty to veterans and others, rather than on whether Dems did or didn't facilitate a shutdown of government. So I think Chuck's strategy is, as hard as this is, keep the focus on Trump and Musk's malfeasance rather than on what Democrats are doing and should they be blamed for it.
You know, Senator, I want to talk about veterans for a second. And it's been a long time since I have served. And I think one of the shocks to me was just how poorly treated the vets were unfortunately, because of the bureaucracy at the VA. It was one of the most difficult places for members to deal with. I mean, strangely enough, I think people would be surprised if there's a problem with the IRS and they were harassing somebody. They could call them up and say, "Hey, listen, you've been doing this case for 7 years. Make a decision, for God's sake." The IRS, the Social Security, all of these other administrations would actually be more responsive, whereas the VA would just do the slow roll, and they were always chronically understaffed. Veterans were always treated terribly, and it was one of the great shocks to me. And when I left, my successor, Jeff Miller, had even more problems. There's, as you remember, not so long ago, a big problem with the VA. I guess I shouldn't be shocked. But a party that talks so much about defending and protecting veterans are firing them after 20 years of service and coming to work at the Pentagon, or talking about slashing the VA. Where does this end up for our vets, for our men and women that have fought to protect and defend this country?
Joe, you're going to get me really angry about this. Donald Trump has fired more veterans than any president in the history of the United States, and he's been in office less than 2 months, and he's not done. When you do willy-nilly firings in the federal workforce, 30% of the federal workforce is veteran. It's less than 5% in the civilian workforce. So you are firing veterans, and he knows it because he's been president before, and Russ Vought, the OMB director, has been OMB director before. They know who is the workforce. And in addition, to make it worse, they've decided, well, let's go after probationary employees. Now, Joe, what you know is probation doesn't mean you've done something wrong. It means you're a new hire. Who are new hires? Young people or career switchers. Veterans. Veterans serve in the military for 5 or 25 years, and then if they come into the federal civil service, they're probationary employees. So this is a war on veterans. Then you take it to the next level, all these VA cuts. I went to the opening of a brand new Veterans Administration clinic down near Fredericksburg a couple Fridays ago. State of the art. We spent $350 million to do it. It unified a whole bunch of different clinics because veterans were having to drive from here to there to everywhere. Put it in this state-of-the-art facility, but because of hiring freezes and the VA administrators plan to lay off a whole lot more people, it opens up with a skeleton crew. We don't want to just have a nice parking lot and a nice building. You want to be able to actually get some services there. And they want to lay off even more at the VA. It's unconscionable. And that's why one of the amendments we're pushing for today as part of the end game on this continuing resolution is, how about Republicans just vote on this? Rehire all the veterans that Trump has fired. Can we just agree to do that? We'll see what Republicans say.
Yeah. I mean, you would hope so. And again, for people that aren't vets or aren't from a family of vets, they don't understand how impacted veterans have been, and again, how difficult dealing with the VA has been over the past 30 years. And Jonathan Lemire, you talk about these, quote, probationary members. It's not because they're on probation. As we heard from a Fox News host the other night, he's got a friend or knows somebody who's a vet who served America in uniform for 20 years, retired honorably, got a job at the Pentagon because he wanted to keep serving his country, and was fired. And this story is happening, as the senator said, this story is happening across the federal government and across America, and it has to stop.
Yeah, that moment there you just mentioned with Jesse Waters talking about his friend, I included a piece I wrote last week about DOJ and noted that was when President Trump, for the first time, grew somewhat concerned about the media coverage, anyway, of these cuts. But of course, he is still continuing to largely empower Elon Musk, though has reined him in somewhat in the last week or so. Senator Kaine, switching gears just slightly here, part of the strain on so many people right now is this sort sort of the headwinds we're suddenly facing in the economy. We know about the markets, but also just the costs are going up, in part due to President Trump's tariffs, EU, Canada, and the like. We saw some real anger at a town hall last night in North Carolina. There's a Republican lawmaker faced constituents. That's not an uncommon sight lately. What are your voters, what are your constituents, citizens of Virginia, saying right now about the number one thing Donald Trump was hired to do, which was to lower prices, yet that's not happening?
No, they're furious about it because he did campaign on that. He didn't win Virginia, but Virginians heard that message loud and clear. No Virginian, when I was on the campaign trail last November, was talking to me about Greenland or the Panama Canal or wanting to make Canada the 51st state. They were talking about bringing inflation down, and that's what Donald Trump said he would do. The tariffs hit Virginia very, very hard in the first Trump term, especially the ag and forestry sector. And they are already hitting us. Even while some of them are delayed, Canadians are pulling American products off shelves in protest, and these European reciprocal tariffs against American products are hurting us. I did a farmers roundtable in northwestern Virginia a couple weeks back, and I was hearing this over and over and over again. We can't bear the tariffs. One that was funny, there's a little bakery, Mom's Apple Pie is the name of this. That sounds like too good to be true for a political story, but they have 3 little bake shops, and the owner, April, said, listen, these tariffs are going to kill me. And I said, April, now come on. Your little bakery, tariffs? She goes, where do you think pie tins come from? They all come from Canada. They're aluminum, and nobody has to buy apple pie. And so it's an item that you buy when you want to celebrate, but you push the price of it up because pie tins increase by 25%. Then people buy a lot less. This hits everybody. It's bad for folks in terms of building supplies, groceries. It's bad for our farmers that want to export to other nations that now find reciprocal trade wars standing in their way. That's why I filed 3 days ago with 6 senators a challenge to President Trump's fake Canadian emergency that underlay a lot of the tariffs that he's imposing. We will have a vote in the Senate on that on the 26th or 7th of March. And I think a lot of Republicans at town hall meetings are getting an earful about how bad these tariffs are, and I'm expecting that some of them are going to be under some significant motive to vote for me on this bill.
All right, Democratic Senator Tim Kaine of Virginia, we really do appreciate you coming in today and explaining what's going on with the vote and also, obviously, with the tariffs and vets. Thank you so much.
You bet, Joe. Thanks.